Her message came at 12:41 a.m., 2 months and 6 days after she said she needed space. I miss the old you, the way you used to be before everything changed. I stared at it like it was a puzzle piece that didn't belong to this table. No name needed. Her contact was still saved under the name I gave her when things were good. Home. I didn't reply. The words weren't unfamiliar. They were scripted, like something she'd practiced in front of a mirror, hoping to sound sincere without triggering confrontation. But the part that froze me wasn't what she said. It was when she said it. 12:41. That was the exact minute she walked through the front door the night everything shifted. The night she came home late and didn't bother lying well. The night I realized you don't need packed bags to leave a marriage. Back then, she said it was just dinner with friends. She smiled like it was supposed to reassure me, but her keys hit the bowl with no rhythm. Her shoes didn't come off. She didn't lean down to kiss me like she always did. That night has lived in my head without rent, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. She didn't ask how my day was, didn't notice I had cooked, didn't see that I'd left her favorite wine chilling, even though she stopped drinking it 2 weeks earlier. She just stood there, distracted. Like a woman walking through a staged version of her life, careful not to touch anything. "You're up?" she asked. I nodded. She avoided my eyes, which told me more than any confession would have. Guilt always knows how to hide, but the absence of curiosity, the silence behind her voice, that's what told me the truth. "I feel like you've been heavy lately," she said, lowering herself onto the couch like it was a therapist's chair. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because I didn't owe her any more softness. I just need lightness, something different, lightness, change, space, the language of polite exits, of people who have already left but want you to thank them for staying civil. I didn't ask questions, didn't raise my voice. That surprised her, I saw it. A flicker of confusion quickly masked. She was expecting a scene, a reaction she could use to justify the next step, but I didn't give her one. Because deep down I already knew. Her body was still in our house, but her presence was. She used to trace her fingers along my shoulder blades when she passed behind me, used to read on the rug beside my desk while I worked late, claiming the floor was more honest than the chair. That version of her had been gone for weeks, and I, without admitting it, had started cataloging her absence. No more shared coffee cups in the sink. No more post-it notes on the fridge with dumb inside jokes. No more "I'll be home soon" texts that actually meant anything. That night didn't break me. It clarified me. She thought she was introducing distance, but I had already started turning it into evidence. What she didn't realize, what she still doesn't, is that I heard the door close long before it clicked shut. And tonight, months later, she writes to me at the same time she abandoned the air in that room and says she misses the man I used to be. As if he's still waiting somewhere untouched, suspended in memory, but he's not. He left that same night. He sat on the couch, stared across at the woman who couldn't look back, and decided to disappear quietly, carefully, permanently. I looked back down at her message. The screen dimmed before I could decide whether to delete it or let it haunt me a little longer. I didn't answer, because some messages aren't bridges, they're tombstones. It didn't start with a fight. That would have been easier. Something to anchor the unraveling to. A moment you could point at and say, "There, that's when it broke." Instead, it started with silence. A small pause between words that hadn't existed before, a delay in her touch, a hollowness in her laugh when we weren't around other people. She came home that night at 12:41 a.m., same as the timestamp on her recent message. I wonder if she realized that, or maybe guilt has its own internal clock. "Dinner with the girls," she'd said earlier. "Might run late." "Don't wait up." I waited anyway, not because I didn't trust her, because I wanted to, but she walked in smelling like eucalyptus and citrus hotel soap. Her makeup was still intact, lips too perfect, perfume fresh. No lipstick smudges on her water glass when I checked the sink later. She hadn't been at dinner. Whatever it wasn't what she'd claimed. She saw me on the couch and flinched, barely, but enough. "You're still up?" "Yeah." We stared at each other across the living room. She didn't sit next to me, didn't ask how my night was. She walked past, dropped her purse on the table, and stood there like she forgot how our home worked. "You okay?" I asked. She turned slowly like she'd rehearsed her answer but wasn't sure if I was following the script. I don't know. Her voice cracked, not from sadness, from calculation. What's going on? She looked at me like I was asking the wrong question. You've been different lately, she said. Heavy, heavy, that word again. It wasn't about my mood. It was a passcode. Her way of saying you're no longer convenient for the story I'm writing. I just need some lightness in my life, change. I need to figure out who I am outside of all this. She gestured vaguely, our home, our marriage, our shared routines, as if they were detritus she needed to clear. I didn't respond. I let the silence grow. And in that silence, she stepped back emotionally, like someone retreating from a ledge before you notice they'd climbed it. She didn't say she was leaving. She didn't have to. Her coat stayed on the chair, her shoes by the door, her phone in her hand the whole time. That was the night I realized you don't always see betrayal arrive. Sometimes it moves in quietly, starts folding your clothes differently, leaves earlier for work, forgets the little rituals that made things real. I watched her that night like I was watching someone else's wife. The distance wasn't something I felt, it was something she wanted me to feel. So I nodded. Said nothing. Let her think she'd caught me off guard, but in truth I wasn't stunned. I was already taking notes. I was already shifting. She thought she was easing herself out of discomfort. What she didn't realize is that I was already preparing the space for her to leave. She wanted lightness, so I gave her air. I slept in the guest room that night, not because she asked, because I knew it wouldn't be long before she stopped asking for anything at all, and I needed the distance to think clearly. To see things for what they were, not love, not confusion, strategy, she didn't know it yet. But the moment she chose lightness, she made me weightless too, not broken, unattached, not lost, tracking, and that was the real beginning. I didn't beg, she expected resistance. A confrontation, a plea, a cracked voice asking her to stay. That would have suited her story, made her the brave one walking away from a man who couldn't let go, but I gave her nothing. Nothing except a smile that didn't touch my eyes and silence that didn't beg for interpretation. While she thought she was slipping away unnoticed, I was already watching her shadow stretch in the wrong directions. First move, her phone. She never locked it before. Now it never left her side, even in the bathroom, even while folding laundry. She'd text with her screen tilted, her smile curated, faint, reflexive, not for me. So one morning while she was in the shower, I mirrored her phone to mine, cloned it. The software's legal, used by parents, employers, private investigators. Quiet, invisible, complete. It took less than 3 minutes. Second move, her finances. She de-opened a separate credit card account 3 weeks before the dinner she never went to, not in secret exactly, just without mention. It was under her maiden name. The statements went to a work address I'd never known existed. I pulled records, payments to boutique hotels, ride shares to unfamiliar cross streets. Spa appointments logged on days she said she was working late. Third move, GPS. I tracked her car through a shared insurance app she forgot I still had access to. Weekly patterns formed, Monday and Thursday evenings, always the same location. A building in an arts district she'd never shown interest in before. One with a discreet underground garage. The pieces started forming a shape. Daily messages to a single contact saved under the name Riley Wellness, an alias for someone she met during a work-sponsored seminar on emotional resilience. His real name was Jason. Married, with a new apartment registered 6 months ago. He'd been careful. They both had, but not enough. Because they weren't hiding from someone suspicious. They were hiding from someone they thought was asleep. While she sent him soft-hearted texts about feeling seen, I was cataloging every word, every timestamp, every location. They called their meetings aligned escapes. She said things to him like, "You make me feel lighter, less trapped. You listen without trying to fix me. You make everything feel easier, lighter, like I can finally exhale." She was building a bridge from our life to her new one and calling it therapy. But it wasn't therapy. It was a blueprint. I didn't confront her. Not yet, because confrontation creates defense. Defense creates lies. Lies destroy clarity. I wanted clarity, so I let her think I was drifting, distracted, focused on work. She commented on it once with a smile that felt almost cruel. "You seem quieter lately. Is everything okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, just reflecting." She looked satisfied, like she'd managed to become both the victim and the enlightened one, like she was guiding me gently toward the idea of release. But I wasn't being led, I was preparing. I stopped sleeping in the guest room, not because things improved, because I needed to watch her patterns, needed to study the rhythm of her goodbyes. Her fingertips on my back grew less familiar. Her hugs felt like check-ins, not affection. She'd hold me just long enough to feel justified. Meanwhile, I changed my passwords, moved savings to a separate account, backed up legal documents, retained a divorce attorney under NDA. The man she missed, the old me, he was already gone. The new version, he was building exits in silence, not out of fear, out of principle. I kept going deeper, not out of obsession, out of necessity. There's a difference. Most people in my position waste time trying to pinpoint the exact moment trust collapsed. I wasn't interested in moments. I was after the system. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't messy, spontaneous lust. It was structured, calculated. They had rules. Jason never texted after 10 p.m., never used emojis. They kept their messages vague, coded phrases about meeting points, emotional check-ins, and energy shifts. But I had the thread, every message, every timestamp, every deleted photo. They called their relationship a safe container. That phrase came up more than once. It made my skin crawl, how she used to describe our marriage with the same words back when she believed in it. I found the seminar brochure buried in her home office drawer. Printed on thick cardstock, the kind designed to make you feel like you're buying clarity. He was listed as a facilitator. She de-circled his name with a small asterisk. Jason Collins, emotional intelligence coach, divorced twice. Former real estate agent turned self-actualization evangelist. Their first meeting hadn't been accidental. He'd sought her out. She leaned in. 3 weeks before the dinner that never happened, they met at a cafe under the pretense of post-session reflection. Her calendar said team-building follow-up. I found the receipt, 2 glasses of wine. One discreet location paid in cash, but what cracked something deeper wasn't the betrayal itself. It was what she said to him. She wrote, "He's intense, always managing, always fixing. You just see me." That's when I stopped being the man she remembered. Because that sentence, so clean, so surgical, cut through something I hadn't realized was still holding me together. She told him I was a weight, an engine, not a partner. And then in another message 3 days later, "I think I can ease out of it without trauma. He's too proud for drama." That was true, but pride isn't weakness. Pride is the reason I didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't expose her, not yet. I didn't want to end the marriage. I wanted to unmask it. Strip it down until there was nothing left she could dress up as healing, because she wasn't seeking peace. She was seeking permission to erase me gently. But I don't disappear. I started phase 2. I documented every step, created a digital timeline backed up twice. Emails, financial records, surveillance logs, not for revenge, for leverage, because if she wanted a clean exit, I'd make sure it cost her clarity. I scheduled an appointment with my attorney, an old college friend I hadn't spoken to in years. We met after hours. I laid it all out. He read everything without interrupting. When he finished, he said, "You want to burn it down?" "No," I said. "I want the air back." By now she had fully moved into performance. She smiled at me at breakfast, sent memes during work hours, kissed my cheek with the enthusiasm of habit, and all the while she thought I was settling, but I was. I was studying her exit plan so I could rewrite mine. Because I wasn't going to leave as the wounded one. I was going to leave as the man who knew, who watched, who waited, who dismantled the stage while the actors were still mid-scene. And when the curtain fell, I wouldn't be in the audience. I'd be gone, already rebuilding something real without the script. By the time she started talking about resetting, I already had my departure mapped to the hour. She came home one night glowing, humming softly in the kitchen while reheating takeout. She poured herself a glass of white wine she hadn't touched in months, used to call it too sharp, and asked if I wanted to do a weekend retreat together. "Something restorative," she said, leaning on the counter like a woman who'd never betrayed anyone. "We could use a reset." She smiled, waiting for me to buy the performance. I smiled back and nodded. That was the Thursday before I left. In the 3 days that followed, I locked everything down. My attorney filed protective motions to secure our joint assets. I opened a separate checking account, routed all future income into it, froze shared credit lines. The house, technically in my name, was placed in a trust under advisement. She wouldn't find out until she tried to leverage it. I updated my will, my power of attorney, moved every sentimental item that still meant something to me, photo albums, handwritten letters from my father, a watch I'd nearly pawned in college, into a private storage unit an hour out of town. She was still working late most nights, still lying with fluency. I didn't tell her I knew. I didn't ask about Jason. I didn't corner her with printouts or screenshots, because cornering implies fear. I wasn't afraid anymore. The man she missed, the old me, he might have broken under this. Might have begged for answers, clung to what remained, but I had changed, not out of bitterness, out of precision. Saturday morning I woke up before dawn. She was still asleep. One arm flung over to my side of the bed like muscle memory hadn't caught up to reality. I packed in silence. One bag, essentials only. No long note. Just a single sheet of paper on the kitchen counter, folded once. She'd find it next to a bottle of her favorite wine, unopened. A callback she wouldn't appreciate until too late. The note read, "The version of me you remember was built for a two-player game. You stopped playing. I stopped pretending. I didn't slam the door, didn't erase myself. I left the pictures up, the books aligned, the towels folded, everything intact but me. Because my exit wasn't an escape. It was a message. Left first. I'm just the one who finally followed through. By midday, I was out of state. I had a rented apartment under a temporary lease, a new number, and a lawyer already filing divorce proceedings under sealed terms. Her first call came 12 hours later. No voicemail, just the ringtone blinking in a quiet room. I let it ring. Let it echo. She wanted space. Now she had nothing else. She didn't call again until the following afternoon. This time a voicemail. Voice low, uncertain. Hey. I saw the note. I don't really understand. Can we talk? Understand. That word always lands differently when it's used after the damage is done, like clarity is something I still owe her. But I didn't delete the message. I let it sit there, unopened, unplayed again, a reminder of the silence I'd earned. By Monday, her tone had shifted. Look, I think you're overreacting. I don't know what you think you've figured out, but this isn't the way. She wasn't confused. She was cornered. I had gone dark. No responses, no forwarding address, no access to shared accounts. The lawyer had filed under terms that locked her out of all mutual holdings pending a court review. Her name, which she had never legally changed back to her maiden one, meant all her financial moves under that alias were traceable. I'd given her space. I'd taken the rest. 2 days later, she tried a different tactic. I think we owe each other a conversation. After everything, we owe that. I replied once, short, surgical. You owed me honesty, we're even now. She didn't respond, not right away, but the fallout started to ripple. Jason, her emotionally available savior, had gone quiet. She tried reaching him twice after I left. He read both messages, didn't reply. I saw it through the mirrored app before I shut it down for good. He wasn't interested in the aftermath, only the performance. And now that the stage was broken, he'd exited without applause. Her friends, well, the ones who used to be ours, began pulling back too. Some had suspected but didn't want to get involved. Now, confronted with the truth, they chose neutrality, silence, distance. She was unraveling, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, in a way that looks normal from the outside but feels like erosion from within. She sent a longer message 2 weeks later, said she was sorry, said she never meant for things to go this way. Said she thought I was stronger than this, stronger than vanishing. That line nearly made me laugh. She thought strength was absorbing betrayal without consequence, carrying it until she decided to let go. But my strength wasn't in endurance, it was in strategy. I didn't burn her life down. I made sure she saw what it looked like without me holding it up. She reached out to my sister, my friends, mutual contacts. They were polite, cordial, distant. The narrative she wanted to tell about growing apart, about rediscovering herself, about an amicable transition, was unraveling in real time. Because the truth doesn't need defenders. It just needs time. And now time was all she had. I didn't reply again. Didn't send more notes. Didn't leave breadcrumbs. She had built her escape with care, with plausible deniability, with gentle, rehearsed detachment. But what she never considered, what she couldn't fathom, was that I would leave first in every way that mattered, emotionally, mentally, legally, and I would never return. That was the reckoning, not rage, not revenge, absence. 3 months passed before I heard from her again. No calls, just a message. I miss the old you. No context, no follow-up, just that single line. I didn't need to ask what she meant. She was alone now. Not officially, not publicly, but alone in the only way that matters. When the line no longer fits and the people who once smiled on cue have all stepped back into their own mirrors. Jason had ghosted her, quietly, efficiently. I'd seen it happen. One unanswered message turned into 5. She asked if he was okay, if she'd misread something, if they were still aligned. He never answered. Because when the thrill of hiding ends, the person who needed shadows loses their spotlight. Friends she thought were hers stopped calling. A few mutuals reached out to me quietly, said they didn't know, said they were sorry. I didn't reply to most. The ones who mattered had already chosen silence when it counted. She reached out to one of my former colleagues, trying to gauge where I'd gone. He gave her nothing. Loyalty is loudest in discretion. And now she was circling the ruins, looking for the man who used to listen when she needed comfort. But he was gone. He left the night she chose lightness over truth. The night she stepped through the door and didn't notice I had already stopped waiting. I read her message again. I miss the old you. My reply took 10 seconds to type. One line, nothing else. He left the night you did. No flourish, no punctuation, just closure. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. Let the silence fill the space she tried to leave empty on her own terms. Let her sit in what she created, distance dressed as freedom. Months went by. I didn't date. Didn't run towards some rebound illusion. That's not healing. That's hiding in someone else's shadow. I focused on work, took a project out of state, ran 3 miles every morning, started cooking again, not to impress anyone, just to feel rhythm return. Some mornings were heavy. The echo of routine is a strange kind of grief. I'd see a bottle of her lotion in the back of the cabinet and feel the old muscle memory rise. But I didn't reach out. I let it pass, like weather. I rebuilt quietly. Took up an old hobby I'd let go during the marriage, carving. My hands needed to make something solid again. Talked to my sister more. A few close friends who didn't flinch when the truth came out. I wasn't fixed. That's not the word. But I was clear. I learned to live without the noise, without the waiting, without the second guessing that used to live in my chest every time she smiled like something was missing and wouldn't say what. And one day, I don't know when exactly, I realized I didn't hate her. I didn't miss her either. She had become what she chose to be, absence. And I had become what she never saw coming, a man who doesn't return, not out of anger, out of evolution. Because survival isn't about getting even. It's about getting free. And I was.